I thank Prakara to because of bringing me back into my love profession, that is teaching. On this Teachers' Day, it's actually a warm welcome for me again to go over a topic like this. Okay, so I thank Prakara, and I hope everyone have subscribed to this. Okay, now coming to the topics which are involved in the nervous system. Coming to the syllabus point of view, these are the list. I have just listed out what are the major topics present in the nervous system. It starts with the what is a nervous system? What does it exactly consist of? That's nothing but the organization. And the major functional unit of any functional system, we have one cell. Okay, so in the same way, the functional unit of nervous system is a neuron. Okay, and the next part is neuroglia. So we'll be even learning about what is a neuron, because it's the basic part through which neurons make up the functional system known as nervous system. And then we have various types of neurons, because our body doesn't function only one function. It has many functions, right? So we have different types of neurons which work and which gives different functions. And we'll after learning the external physiology of how these nervous system is organized, or what is the structure of these nerves, then we internally understand how the nervous system or neurons transmit. How do they inform, or how do they transmit information from one neuron to the other neuron, and how it makes functional. Okay, so that's what we call it as electrophysiology, action potential, nerve impulse. All these are the major internal parts involved in a nerve's impulse. Next, coming to the major one, CNS. You all understand CNS is the big topic, right? Central nervous system. The only thing, two things we have in the central nervous system is brain and the spinal cord. These two simple parts, but the major actions it does, right? All the integration part. These two things, the brain and spinal cord, stands a person outstanding. Okay, so we'll be learning about what are the major structural parts involved in the central nervous system, and how the central nervous system coordinates the peripheral nervous system to make a body functional. So in the central nervous system, we'll be going over a few meninges, ventricles, which mainly consist of the specific fluid, which is nothing but the cerebrospinal fluid. And next, the major function, parts of a brain. You have, all the four major parts of the brain, that is cerebrum. Okay, coming over from the inferior part, if you can see, we have brainstem. Okay, posterior to the brainstem is your cerebellum, and in between, or superior to the brainstem and anterior to the cerebellum, just above, you have this diencephalon, and anterior or superior to all these three structures, we have the largest part of the brain, that is nothing but the cerebrum. We call it as our intelligence, right? Our IQ. Whenever someone questions you about how much IQ you have, that's again coming from this cerebrum. Next, we'll also be learning about the other second major part of the central nervous system, that is spinal cord. So what is spinal cord? What is it made up of? How it integrates brain with the other parts, because spinal cord is the major road for carrying the information from and to from the brain. So I'll just make a gist of the nervous system. I'm not going to deeply explain you about. I'll give you what exactly a nervous system includes, how you have to learn this topic, or how you can make this topic a complicated topic, a very simple one, where you can score examination point of view also. So first, coming to the major topic, that is classification of nervous system, or organization of nervous system. So nervous system is basically classified into two major things. Okay, so central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Last few minutes, I've been going over through the two major things, that is brain and spinal cord, which comes under this central nervous system. And we have discussed only brain and spinal cord, but all the other parts carry the information to the brain and spinal cord and function according to the information integrated by the brain and spinal cord, is again coordinated by the major part of the nervous system, which is known as peripheral nervous system. And this and goes on subdivisions individually if you goes. So peripheral nervous system, if I've been telling you like to and fro, right? So to have an information going in and out, you need two things, right? One is afferent and efferent, that is sensory information, and the other one is motor information. So in the same way, the peripheral nervous system is classified into two major divisions. One is sensory division, the other one is the motor division. Sensory division is sense. How do you sense, or how an object is sensed, how a body temperature is sensed. Okay, the various changes in the body is sensed by this sensory division, and then the neurons carry the information to the spinal cord sends it to the brain, and then brain integrates itself based upon the information it has from the brain. Again, the nerves come giving the information to the sensory motor division, saying that you have to do this work. So this is the major thing. Based upon this sense, I have given you this answer. Okay, so now the motor division is further divided into somatic and autonomic. So somatic is again, which is mainly controlling the skeletal muscles, and the rest all is by the autonomic nervous system, which is further subdivided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic, and the third minor one, that is enteric nervous system, which is mainly involved only in the digestive system, which is the nerves which are involved in this digestion part. But the majority of the nervous system is again coming above among the sympathetic and parasympathetic. 80% of the actions are opposite for the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Like if the sympathetic system is involved in increasing the adrenaline level, parasympathetic system is involved in decreasing the adrenaline level. So these two functions are opposite, and we have exceptions, right? Everywhere we have exceptions. So this is the organization of a nervous system. A nervous system is majorly classified. I'll just give you an again. It is divided into central and peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is classified into sensory and motor into somatic and autonomic finally into three major divisions, that is sympathetic, parasympathetic, and enteric nervous system. So this is the how our nervous system is organized in our body. So simple, right? So the smallest functional system on our body. Now let's see what are the major functions. I've been telling you it's the major part of our body. It's majorly involved. So, but you can describe it in just three major things. It has only three functions. It has sensing function, it integrates, and it has motor function. If you can divide it, it is sensory function, it is involved in integration, and then motor function, right? Then this slide helps you to understand exactly. It gives you the imagination of how I've been telling you sensory, central nervous system, and the motor nervous system. So before that, let's see what is a neuron, right? Every part or every functional system has a functional unit. The nervous system has a functional unit known as neuron. A basic neuron consists of three major divisions, that is cell body, axon terminals, and cell body is diverged into dendrites. Okay, and few of the neurons are covered by myelin sheaths and few are unmyelinated. Myelin sheaths are nothing but the membranes covered along this axon. If you have myelin sheath, then the color of the neuron, it appears to be white. If it is gray, that means, and then and so on. So these are the three major parts of a neuron. So it's very simple, right? It has three major things. You can just see how a neuron gives information to the other neuron from the dendrites. Okay, dendrites consist of the sensory receptors, right? So dendrites consist, these small hair-like structures consist of the receptors. So first, let me tell you what is a receptor. Receptor is nothing but a sensing organ, or sensing part of any organ. Okay, so here these receptors sense the change. If you think motor like is touch is the dendrites or the neurons present here, they feel, they feel that there is something happening, you are touching something, and the olfactory receptors sense that there is a change in smell. Okay, in the same way, all the sensory receptors of the neurons sense this specific action. And these dendrites carry that information, that change it observes, and carry that information and tells it to the cell body. And this cell body carries the information through the major long structure, which is known as axon. And from axon, it has various axon terminals. So through which axon terminals the information is sent to the next neuron. So, but I'm telling you, it's carrying information, but how is it carrying? It needs some vehicle, right? So we call that vehicle as known as neurotransmitter. Okay, so the vehicle which carries that information saying that there is some change here is neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitters are nothing but the chemical substances. Okay, neurotransmitters are nothing but the chemical substances which carry the information, which tells, okay, the information that this change happens. So specific neurotransmitters are present for the specific nervous system. Like sympathetic nervous system, we have adrenaline as our neurotransmitter. Okay, and for the parasympathetic system, we have acetylcholine as the neurotransmitter. That way, the actions differ. Okay, so this is the basic neuron structure. And if you see how it integrates, right? So if you can see on the left side of the slide, where you have the sensory receptors or the dendrites mainly carry the information or sense the information through the receptors and carry the information through neurotransmitters through the axon. And this information, you call this action as nerve impulse. This is otherwise electrical signal or electrophysiology. All the chemical changes, the ionic changes happen inside, which helps in transmitting this information from the sensory receptor towards the axon terminal. So whenever you have this information carried, then we call this neuron, okay? Because it's carrying the information from the sensory receptor. So it's named after it, known as sensory neuron. Okay, so sensory neurons carry the information towards the brain. Okay, sensory neurons carry the information towards the brain. So towards the brain in the sense, central nervous system, right? So here it sensed, axon helped in transmitting the nerve impulse, and now the axon terminal has packets of neurotransmitters telling to the brain that this has happened. Now you have to take some action. Okay, so the neurons or the nerves present, what is nerve? Nerve is nothing but the bundle of neurons. Okay, the small nerve which you feel that you can see it, right? It is just a bundle of neurons covered by the connective tissue. And here the axon terminals, so the axon terminals, the neurotransmitters, give the information to the next neuron. And this neuron is mainly, where are these neurons present now? I think you all have understood what are the neurons. These are the neurons which are present in the brain and spinal cord, right? So these are mostly the interneurons present, right? It is intermediate between the sensory and the motor neuron. So they are named as interneurons. Okay. And here the information is integrated in the brain saying that you need to take this action. So now the neurotransmitter which gave the information to the brain, now again it changes its ionic neurotransmission, and then comes back to this final interneuron axon terminal, and then it enters to the final nerve neuron, which is nothing but the motor neuron. This motor neuron carries the information towards the effector wherever the sense happened, or otherwise the sensory receptor is one, it can be at one place, and the effector can be at the other place too, right? So more, it depends upon the action it has to show. And so the name of this neuron which carries the information away from the brain, we call it as motor neurons. As you can see here, sensory neurons are usually unipolar, whereas the motor neurons and interneurons are usually multipolar. So this is the basic inner functional. Whenever they ask you about what are the functions of nervous system, you just give them that the three basic functions of nervous system is sensory information, integration, motor information. You just represent this diagram. It's a very beautiful diagram which explains you whole functions of the nervous system, right? The basic functional, if you can see. And just give an example of how this sensory information is transmitted, integrated, and then finally giving an action. So that's your function of a nervous system, right? Hope you're all getting through this, or I'm making it simpler form, right? Next, let's go to the major part of the this topic, that is anatomy and physiology of brain and spinal cord. Now let's see. I've represented all of your 50 to 60 pages of the textbook in one slide. Right? If you can just see here, if you understand this slide, the whole anatomy of brain is in your mind now, right? Mind in the sense, again, where is mind here? It's nothing but in the cerebrum, right? What we call in the general way, mind is nothing but here, which lies in your cerebrum, right? You can just go over this diagram, a very simple diagram having a semicircular structure of cerebrum, and in the center, you have this diencephalon, with the thalamus, hypothalamus, and then give it a small longitudinal cylindrical structure, which says that stem-like structure, which is nothing but brain stem, and just posteriorly, you give a small lobe, oval-shaped structure, which is nothing but the cerebellum. So these are the four main structures which are present in a brain. Okay, so let's see what's brain. We call a person a brainy. Okay, when you call a person brainy, we all other persons are not brain, does not have brain, nothing like that, right? Every person has brain. The only change is that how do they integrate that information? How does their cerebrum function to the sense it gives? So few of the brains give fast action, the few others doesn't give a fast action. Okay, so now, so we can call brain as a simple word known as it is a control center. Okay, it controls the whole actions of the body. I'm talking to you. You're listening to me now. I am hoping that you're listening to me now, right? All these actions are all mainly controlled by my brain, your brain, right? So we can call brain as a control center. Where is it exactly located in the brain? It's mainly located in the skull, or otherwise in the cranium. Okay, in your cranium. So before face, this is the facial structure, and the rest of all is nothing but the brain. Your skull includes the sensitive part of our body is brain. Okay, it's protected by a very protective bone, that is skull. Okay, control center. And before that, let me tell you about learning anatomy and physiology. Generally, when you learn in any anatomy or anatomy and physiology of any organ, okay, or any structure, just divide it into three main things. Where is it located in the body? What is the major divisions present in the body? The third one is what is the main function? So if you can read understand where on these three divisions, right? Where is it located? Where is it? What are the main subdivisions and the functions? Then you understood the whole structure. Okay, the rest remains exceptions, or it can be included if your brain accommodates it, right? Okay, so what's brain? Brain is a control center of the body and it's located in the cranium. It consists of major 4 divisions. One is, I'll just go through before I've given you, right? Cerebrum. It consists of cerebrum. Okay, if you just go through, this is the cerebrum. It consists of diencephalon and the brain stem, and posterior to that is the cerebellum. So 4 major divisions. Okay, so this is nothing but the brain. Now let's go with the individual parts. Okay, now let's start with the stem part, the root part. Okay, hope you're all getting it. Yes, yeah, please thumbs up and subscribe to this so that you can have great lectures, or you can make the subject more understandable. Okay, yeah. Now coming to the major part, I'll first start with the brain stem because it's the main stock which holds this to the body. Okay, so the brain stem, as the word stem indicates, the stock part. Okay, it is the connection between the other parts and the spinal cord. Okay, so brain stem consists of, or where is it located? Just now, it's located inferior to the diencephalon, superior to the spinal cord. And it consists of 3 main divisions. Can you see here? It consists of medulla oblongata, medulla oblongata. The second one is the pons, and the third one is the midbrain. I have come from inferior to the superior regions. Okay, this is the spinal cord. Spinal cord continuation is medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is a very important part of a brain, which is mainly consisting of the vital actions, the centers which are mainly involved in the, what are the vital actions? You all know the vital actions. The major vital actions is heartbeat, right? Breathing. All these actions are mainly controlled by the centers present in this medulla oblongata. And then next comes the pons. Pons is the structure which is just superior to the medulla oblongata and inferior to the midbrain, which again is involved in which consists of various nuclei, that is group of neurons present, and act as a relay station. That means it carries the information from the medulla towards the cerebrum, because this is the main integration center, right? Cerebrum is the main integration. So here pons act as a main relay center. And next comes the midbrain. Midbrain is just anterior to the brain cerebellum. This is cerebellum anterior. Okay, you all know these 4 major parts, right? Superior, inferior, anterior, and posterior. Whenever you write a location, try to represent with these anatomical terms. It gives you more better understanding than saying that it's front, back. Okay. So now what's this midbrain? Midbrain is just superior to the pons and anterior to the cerebellum. This also has few nuclei tracts which are involved in the carrying the information from the spinal cord towards the cerebrum and hypothalamus too. And so this brainstem, so brainstem consists of sensory and motor tracts. Yeah, what do you mean by tracts? Okay, just now I've told a neuron, group of neurons is nothing but nerves, right? So nerves also form a tract. Okay, bundle of nerves form a single tract carrying single information, unipath. Okay, tracts are nothing but the bundle of nerves which carry the information one side. Okay, and as I've just now told you that the major functions or the major vital actions are controlled by this brain stem, mainly which are present in the medulla oblongata, that is cardiovascular center, okay, which is involved in the heartbeat, medullary rhythmicity center, which is mainly involved in the breathing action, vomiting center. You all know that vomiting center, right? You'll be understanding better this vomiting center when you have a better knowledge of pharmacology, where every drug, if it goes and touches this vomiting center, you feel like vomiting or nausea sensation. Okay, so and you have deglutition center, that is digestion, swallowing, cough center. The major vital actions are all present in this medulla oblongata. So this is about the brain stem, right? So now simple, we have summarized the first main part of the brain, that is brain stalk. Now let's see what is the next part, the posterior part of the brain stem, that is cerebellum. Here, okay, cerebellum. Cerebellum is nothing but the smallest, okay, the smallest posterior part of the brain, which is mainly involved in the or which is mainly involved in controlling the movements, regulates posture and balance. Right now, I'm sitting perfectly. The posture, or whenever you're walking, the balance, okay, okay, whatever movement actions, okay, all that are controlled mainly by the neurons present in this cerebellum. These are mainly involved in, these are also having another function that is mainly involved in cognition, that is nothing but memory and language processing. Okay, so cerebellum also plays a very important role. And here, if you can see, cerebellum consists of an internal structure and the outer lobes. Okay, it consists of these small lobes, right? It is very tightly folded structure. Okay, it consists of these lobes, and where this white, it consists of the white matter, gray matter. What is white matter and gray matter? Just I've told you, like neurons or the axons of the neuron are covered by the myelin sheaths. Okay, myelinated neurons and unmyelinated neurons. These are the two basic things which are present in white matter and the gray matter. That gives the color, or otherwise, based upon the color, you differentiate it into white matter and gray matter. And so this is about the cerebellum, the smallest part. Now let's go to the above. We have done with the stalk. Now we have done with the bag, that is cerebellum. Now let's see the middle part of the brain, that is diencephalon. Okay, so as I have written here, diencephalon, we can call it as a major relay station. Okay, because it is the major thing which has connection with the intelligence, that is cerebrum. Okay, so it is found, or it is told as it is a release station, which consists of various tracts, nuclei, which helps in association tracts, which help in carrying the information towards the cerebrum and sending back the integrated information. Here, diencephalon consists of three major things, okay, or three major subdivisions. That is thalamus, the round structure here, the oval shaped structure is nothing but a thalamus. The next, hypo, you all know what is hypo and hyper, right? Just here inferior to the thalamus, the area which is here is hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is very important. It helps in regulating the homeostasis. Okay, what is homeostasis? Nothing but the balance of the body. Homeostasis is nothing but the balance of the body. So to maintain the homeostasis, you need all the hormones, okay, all that are regulated by the hypothalamus. If hypothalamus helps in saying, or nowadays you have observed thyroid disorders, right? Thyroid function, which is mainly again controlled by the major chemical messenger. What it is, nothing but a thyroid hormone. T3 and T4 levels. So how much T3 has to be present in the body, how much it has to help in metabolism, all that is controlled by the hypothalamus. In that way, so hypothalamus plays a very important role, and that's why it's mainly a regulatory center or homeostatic center. And then it also has a pineal gland, or sorry, the third part of diencephalon is epithalamus. Hypo, and the next one is the epithalamus. These are the three main regions, and a part of epithalamus is this pineal gland, which is again involved in the actions of the olfactory and the auditory actions. So this is about the diencephalon. Okay, diencephalon also helps, just now I told you, right, auditory and olfactory. So it's involved in the consciousness. If there is any damage to the diencephalon regions, it leads to loss of consciousness. Okay. So now, see, we have done with our three major parts. Now let's see the 70% area occupied by the brain. The part is cerebrum. What is it? Cerebrum. What is cerebrum? Cerebrum is the largest part. Whenever anyone asks you to draw a brain, right? What do you all do? You just scribble the rounds, right? So that part is nothing but a cerebrum. As you all know, without studying itself, you will all understand how to draw a cerebrum. Okay, so that major area, so the major area and the major integrating center of whole brain, of whole body is nothing but the cerebrum. Cerebrum it is the largest part of the brain. It's involved in majority of actions. If you can start with, it's involved in perception of sensory information, voluntary movements. You all know what is voluntary and involuntary, right? Voluntary is with your permission. Involuntary is without your permission. Okay. So next is integrative functions such as memory. This is what the smallest function of the cerebrum is memory. It consists of memory, but you analyze a person only with this memory, right? See, a small change or small part can identify yourself. It helps in personality traits, intelligence, all the major actions, all the brainy actions, functions are done by this cerebrum. Okay, here the cerebrum consists of cerebral hemispheres. All the cerebrum, if you think, it has the largest surface area. Okay, it is just folded. It's folded in this gyrus formation and form all these groups. The folding structure, it forms the grooves, fissures, sulci. The small foldings we call it as sulci, and the deepest grooves we call it as fissures. Okay, all these make up this cerebrum. It consists of cerebral cortex. It consists of white matter, gray matter. All that nuclei, all they coordinate various action. Okay, and here it consists of basal nuclei, which help and mainly involved in movements. As I've already told you, cerebellum is involved in the majority of the movements. Okay, few parts of the cerebrum are also involved in the movement action and regulate muscle tone. And the next is the major one. We all talk like emotions, right? That is limbic system. Limbic system is mainly which involved in the emotions, including pleasure, pain, happy, sad, all that emotional actions are all controlled by this limbic system. Again, the same thing. What happens there? The same electrophysiology, the change in the ions. Calcium, okay, ions, they change, the neurotransmitters move, and they give that emotion to us. Sometimes you feel like happy, sometimes you feel like sad. All that emotions are just due to the electrophysiological changes which happens in the cerebrum. Okay, you have the cerebrum, you have right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. When you divide it into right hemisphere and left hemisphere, based upon when you just take the mid part of your cranium and divide it into the right hemisphere and left hemisphere, the major actions of the right hemisphere, I call it as traditional actions, and the left hemisphere is again the modern actions. Like, what is tradition? Traditional actions is feeling emotional, okay, identifying the paths, whereas the modern action, the left hemisphere, is involved in the reasoning. Why it happens? Why not this? The skills, all that are actions are mainly which actions takes place in this left hemisphere. Okay, so right hemisphere and left hemisphere. And if you can divide externally based, okay, it is divided into the 4 major regions. Okay, then you have occipital, temporal, parietal, frontal. Okay, the major one is, first one is the frontal. Okay, frontal, parietal, occipital, and the before one, frontal, that is the most part. Then the comes below the frontal, you have the parietal region, parietal cortex, and then you have the occipital, and just anterior to the parietal region, you have the temporal cortex. Okay, this temporal cortex, again, each division has its own function. Okay, so this is how, what is brain, a gist of brain anatomy, physiology. Okay, hope you all got it. If you have any questions, please type it in the chat box so that I can answer you and help you if I can. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to the next one. That is the 2 major things which cannot be told in the anatomy and physiology is blood-brain barrier and cerebrospinal fluid. Right? Yeah. So blood-brain barrier. The name itself says blood-brain barrier, a membrane which is a selective and a protective membrane which is formed by the endothelial cells of blood capillaries. You know, the blood vessels, right? The blood vessels have the outer layer, which is the endothelial, which are just tight junctions. Okay, it has very tight junctions and it's very selective. It doesn't allow everything to come inside. If everything comes inside, then what's the speciality of our brain? Or it damages the brain, right? Because it's very sensitive. It has vomiting center, it has cardiovascular center, everything. Okay, so whole blood-brain barrier is a protective membrane which doesn't allow all the things to be entering from through this through this fluid system, that is blood, entering into this brain. So the barrier which controls the chemicals to be entered into the brain is nothing but the blood-brain barrier. It's very important, a very protective endothelial membrane. Okay, it's very, and it allows the select, as I've told, it is selective, right? It helps in movement because it also needs oxygen, right? Blood only carries the oxygen. So if the oxygen is necessary, this blood, the tight junctions need to allow the oxygen to enter into, and the carbon dioxide produced in the cells of the brain has to come outside. So it oxygen, carbon dioxide, whatever it's necessary, it takes in, but what does it doesn't like, it doesn't take it. So blood-brain barrier is very important. If there's a damage in the blood-brain barrier, it leads to trauma, whatever you call coma, trauma, or the brain. That's why whenever you have a head injury, it's very important that you have to have, the blood-brain barrier should not be damaged. If it's damaged, then it's a very severe situation because everything is entered. Brain cannot tolerate everything. So it gets destroyed or devastated. The next thing, the next important part in the brain to be discussed is cerebrospinal fluid, right? So next one is CSF. What is CSF? CSF is nothing but the same like a fluid, right? It's a clear, colorless liquid which is composed primarily of water that protects, and the majority, the others are the minerals and the ions, that protects the brain and spinal cord and from the chemical and physical injuries, right? Whenever you have, I told you, like brain has ventricles. So ventricles are needed to be filled with some fluid. So if there is any empty box, what happens? It cannot tolerate any friction or any shock. What does it do? It just flows away with that force. Whatever you hit to that empty box, it goes. Whenever you have some fluid in it, okay, it is a shock absorbance. Okay, so cerebrospinal fluid acts in the same way. So cerebrospinal fluid acts as a shock absorbance. So it takes up all that shocks. Whenever you hit, right, you all hit yourself somewhere or the other. So this cerebrospinal fluid is again a protective fluid which helps in as a shock absorbance. So for mainly with the physical injuries or the chemical injuries. So this is mainly a fluid which is present in the four ventricles of the brain. So these are the two main other things which have to be discussed along with the brain. So far, I think we have understood or structurized what is a brain, right? Next, we'll go with the next part, that is spinal cord, right? What is spinal cord? You all know, spinal cord is the major strong rod which helps you give that posture, right? So spinal cord is the next part of the central nervous system, which is mainly protected by the vertebral column. It has many layers which protects it. Okay. As I've told, ventricles are again carrying the cerebrospinal fluid, protecting it. So spinal cord has that it has, based upon the regions it present, it is divided into 5 regions: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccyx. Okay, so when internally if you can see here the transverse section, I'm not just going deeply into that, I'm just helping you understand what exactly is anatomy or the basic external and internal structures of these parts. So the spinal cord, if you can see this, okay, when you cut the spinal cord, a transverse section or otherwise, it has a head-shaped, it consists of a head-shaped structure. Okay, you can see this head-shaped gray matter, and then white-shaped outer structures. Okay, so this head-shaped structure mainly consists of the gray matter or the neurons, and the white matter consists of the myelinated neurons, and here it is unmyelinated neurons. And this spinal cord is protected by 3 main layers. Okay, DAP. Okay, the first outer layer is dura mater. The second layer is arachnoid matter. The third layer inner. I'm coming from superficial to the underneath. So dura mater, DAP, dura mater, arachnoid matter, and pia matter. So here, the space between the dura matter and arachnoid matter, okay, it is below the dura mater, right? So we call it a subdural space. So why I'm explaining you these regions is, it's very important, because whenever you understand, like whenever you have heard about these injections, right? How do they go? We have various routes of administration of a drug. Okay, or collecting a sample of blood or cerebrospinal fluid, the various fluids for diagnosis. So these parts are very important. So we have subarachnoid space where we give injections, we transfer the drugs. So we have dura mater. The space between the dura mater and the arachnoid matter is known as subdural space, and below the arachnoid, that is nothing but sub, right? Between the arachnoid and pia mater, it is subarachnoid space. Just remember DAP. DAP, dura mater, arachnoid matter, and pia mater. The spaces between this is subdural, subarachnoid, and finally it is this spinal cord, which makes up or which covers this spinal cord. And here it consists of the central canal. Okay. Yes. So this is, and when we go over, we have many things. So here, the nerves or neurons which have discussed in the brain are known as cranial nerves, and the nerves which carry the information is the spinal nerves. Okay, so let's differentiate between these cranial nerves and the spinal nerves. Before that, what are the functions of spinal cord? Okay, I've told you brain is nothing but a control center. We can call spinal cord as a relay center, because it is the major thing, major organ which carries the information. All the neurons present in the spinal cord help in carrying the information from the peripheral nervous system to the central nervous system. And all the motor neurons coming from the cranial nerves, again, are coming from the spinal nerve and going to these effector organs. So what are these cranial nerves and spinal nerves? The simple. The nerves which are originating from brain are known as cranial nerves. The nerves which are originating from spinal cord are known as spinal nerves. We have 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves. We all have an idea of all these 12 pairs of cranial nerves, and here they are divided into three major types of nerves, that is sensory nerves, motor nerves, and mixed nerves. As I've given here, sensory nerves, the first 1, 2, and 8 nerve are these names of the nerves are given based upon this chronology. Based upon the presence of the nerves from the region of the brain it comes over. So the 1, 2, and 8 nerves are the sensory nerves. Motor nerves are the next third, 3, 4, 6, 9, and 12. And the mixed nerves are 5, 7, 9, and 10. That means it can carry both the sensory and the motor information. Coming to the spinal nerves are 31 pairs. Okay, it has 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Here, these spinal nerves, as I've told you, this the relay station that it connects the central nervous system to the sensory receptors, muscles, and glands in all parts of the body, or otherwise the effector parts. A sensory nerve divides into a spinal nerve divides into several branches. These branches are known as rami, or are anterior, posterior. I've told you, like in the cranial, it is they are in the tracts part, right? Association tracts. Okay, all the bundle of nerves, they form a tract and carry the information. Whereas the spinal nerves, they form the branches and forms as rami communicants. Okay, so this is about the cranium. I'm not going through each and every nerve. I'm just giving you the idea of what are these cranial nerves and spinal nerves. And next, so this ends our anatomy and physiology of CNS. So simple, right? Yeah, it's simple, but you need to understand better. Better understanding. This doesn't ends in a very small 1 hour session. It takes about you to if you have to understand a better way, you need to understand it at depth. Okay, so try to go through the lessons given by these Prakara. They help you better understanding of all the sessions. Okay, so now let's here I'm coming to the end of the topic. Okay, I don't think I'm boring you, but coming to that next action is now coming to the climax part of our session, that is reflex arc. What is reflex arc? This is an involuntary action. Okay, a reflex arc is a fast, involuntary, unplanned sequence of action that occurs in response to a particular stimulus. Okay, a change in a body. Okay, or otherwise, I'll take an example. If there's a change or in blood pressure, either increase or decrease in blood pressure, the sensory neurons identify the baroreceptors, are the major sensory receptors. They identify that there is a change in the pressure of the blood, and then they carry the information towards the spinal nerves. Okay, and the spinal nerves carry the information to the cranial nerves and tell to the brain that there is a change in blood pressure. Okay, so see what can be acted. So this is an involuntary, it happens in the body. It's reflex arcs are generally you can call it as healing action. It heals itself. Like, okay, sometimes they say that fever gets healed by itself. How? Because our body has its own immunity. It can have, to some extent, it can control the changes. Okay, so the same way, the blood pressure is sensed by the baroreceptors, carried by the sensory neurons, and the motor neurons tell that there should be a decrease in the blood pressure. And now the blood pressure get decreased by either causing the vasodilation. Blood vessels get either dilated or there will be change in the flow. Okay, input various. So the same actions increase. So this is what is a reflex arc. It is an involuntary, unplanned sequence of action. Okay, here the same action. That is sensory receptor, sensory neuron, integrating center, motor neuron effector. Now, I think you all know where this sensory receptor are present, right? Yes, if you can, please type it in the chat and help me more understand what is it, where is it exactly present. Yeah, sensory receptors are present in the major part where the sensing or the change happen. Next, the sensory neurons, which carry the information, and then integrating center, it's mainly the brain, and then motor neurons again coming through the spinal nerves and finally entering into the effector or the effector organ. So this is a reflex art. We have 4 types of reflexes. Okay, spinal reflexes present in the body, that is stretch reflex, tendon reflex, flexor reflex, and the crossed extensor reflex. Okay, all the reflexes, I mean, reflex arc doesn't have the same action, right? So sometimes you have to just push it, sometimes you have to come back, okay? Sometimes you have to stand still itself. So all these different actions are nothing but the 4 different reflexes we have here. Okay, so the part of the body that responds to the motor nerve impulse, such as muscle or gland, is the effector. Its action is called a reflex. If the effector is skeletal muscle, we call it as a somatic reflex. We have gone through the first slide where I told you like motor division is again divided into the somatic and autonomic nervous system, right? Autonomic nervous system is various all others, whereas the skeletal muscles are controlled by the somatic nervous system. So the reflex action taking place for the skeletal muscles is somatic reflex. And if it is a smooth muscle, or cardiac muscle, or a gland, the reflex is known to be autonomic reflex or a visceral reflex. The 4 important just now I've gone through, that is stretch reflex, tendon, that is whenever you stretch your body, tendon reflex, flexor reflex, and the crossed extensor reflex. All these are the various types of reflexes. So this is the major gist of your nervous system. I hope you all got it. Maybe I've condensified this reflex or action potential, and I'll just give you an other topic, that is neurotransmission part. Okay, that's very important. I've told you like neurotransmitters or the chemical messengers transmit, right? How do they transmit? The chemical information at the axon terminal. Okay, the neurotransmitters are nothing but the vehicles which carry these all chemicals, like acetylcholine, you take an example. Then whenever there is, due to the various transport processes, they enter the cell, and then they are, with the help of the calcium, they with the exocytosis takes place, and they come out of this neuron and shows the action. So this is neurotransmission. In that way, whereas very small concepts are always present in this topic, you need to go over again. Okay, so now let's come to the main topic where I want you to majorly focus on. So now coming to the, and I'll just take a pause of 1 minute, and if anyone have any question, please type in the chat so that I can go over your questions and help, give you more information. Okay, please go on typing. If anything comes over, I'll just go through. So let me continue with the next thing. What I want majorly to explain you is from the starting of my session, I have been stressing that learning is very important, but again, the scored marks is again the major trick in scoring the mark is how you represent your answer. Okay, so how do you represent your answer? The major so the major answer, how do you represent your answer? Coming to this HAP or anatomy and physiology, the major type of questions what you can face is define a part or define a neuron, define neuroglia. Okay, so these are the common questions. Or next is describe an organ. Okay, whenever there's a question for definition part, you don't have, or you can play any trick. Okay, you just have to give away the same definition, the same part, what it exactly is. But the next one is describe an organ. So what is describe an organ? So when the question like write briefly about an organ or write briefly about a part of this part, so in every type of question, just try to stress on the three major subheadings. That is, where is it located? What is the major subdivision? What are the major functions? When you try to represent your question in this way, I think you can, I mean, you also feel satisfied that I have given a good question, or I have given good answer for the question, right? So location, what are the subdivisions, and what are the functions present in this organ. I'll just go through, give an example of how do you represent it. I'll pass over my question. Sorry, I pass over my representation also through into the Prakara. You can just collect it from there if necessary. Okay, so this the major, maybe the question asked like it could be as describe the pons. What is pons? Oh yeah, this is pons, right? So first start with, where is this pons located? Located superior to the medulla oblongata and anterior to the cerebellum. This is where I have even taught you, right? The same thing, you just can represent it. It consists of, what does it consist of? It consists of both nuclei and tracts. What are the functions of pons? It is a relay nerve impulses from motor areas of cerebral cortex to cerebellum, because cerebellum is involved in the majority of the movements. And pontine respiratory group also helps control breathing. Like medulla oblongata is one of the part which is mainly controlling the breathing center, but also it pons also helps in the control of breathing. Next, it associates with four parts of base of cranial nerves. That is trigeminal nerve, which is fifth cranial nerve, abducens sixth nerve, facial nerve, seventh vestibulocochlear, eighth nerve. So this is how, if you can represent, though it can be a 5-mark, 14-mark, any question, the question has been answered fully. Just draw a diagram. Remember, diagrammatic representation of a long answer or of a question is very important. It is very impressive too. Okay, so human anatomy and physiology, try to draw the diagram and explain it. So I hope you understood this. Now I'll just give you a few important, or otherwise what I feel like the top or the topics which you have to go over once again and again to understand. Okay, so first, what is a neuron? What is, or define a neuron? Where is it located? What are the various types of neurons? Okay, like unipolar, multipolar. Okay, all that comes under this neuron. Learn the neuron part. Next, what is neuroglia? Everyone try to miss this neuroglial cells or neuroglia. Try to learn what is neuro. This is just 2-mark question where you can expect define neuroglial cells. And the third one, that is neurotransmitters, a very important one, because the next when you go towards your next higher education, neurotransmitters is the major topic you will be extensively learning about. Okay, so first, basically, if you want to have a basic knowledge, you need to understand what is a neurotransmitter. So learn what is define neurotransmitter, then try to give an example of various neurotransmitters. Okay, then the fourth one is reflex arc, the involuntary action. Try to give the whole reflex arc, define or give the pathway, how this arc starts and how it ends, and what are the various types of reflexes. The next one is the blood-brain barrier. Blood-brain barrier, I've told you, right? Blood-brain barrier is very important, which is made up of the tight junctions of the endothelial cells of the blood capillaries. So it's very important. What is the main parts, and how selective it is, how protective it is. All that, please try to explore about this blood-brain barrier. And what are the various diseases or disorders can occur with the damage of this blood-brain barrier or underdevelopment of this blood-brain barrier. All that, just give, because this is a very important thing. The fourth one, again, continuation of the neurotransmitters is the neurotransmission. Yeah, I skipped the slide of neurotransmission, but give importance to the neurotransmission. It's a very important one. You'll be learning again and again about this neurotransmission. It's very important. Next is action potential. Next, and the other one is the cerebrospinal fluid. We have gone through a few of these. Maybe I have missed this neurotransmission and action potential because it's an extensive part. Okay, so the next one is the cerebrospinal fluid. So, and the types of reflexes. So this is the just otherwise what I feel like in my experience, these are the major topics you have to go through when you learn about, or when you master about these subdivisions. You have a good grip on this unit, or otherwise the nervous system. Now let me go over the previous questions. Let me discuss about how a question is asked and the question paper. I've just collected based upon the marks and the previous questions. I'll just give you how you represent the answer and what an answer you can ask. So the first one is write the functions of the nervous system. The major question is write the functions of the nervous system. I've given you the already, right? How do you write? Sensory function, integrative function, and the motor function, and give that diagrammatic representation of how you explain how it's action. Okay. Next, what are the functions of spinal cord? How it is a relay station. How the spinal nerves carry the information. How from the sensory receptors, how it carries, spinal nerves carry the information through the spinal cord, and finally it gives the integrated center, and then finally coming back. All that comes under this function of spinal cord. Then next is the draw the anatomical diagram of brain. Very simple, right? I've given you the first slide itself. It's very important. If you just view that that part of the brain, you can learn, explain about the brain parts very easily. So first, draw the stalk, the brainstem, then anterior to that, or otherwise the left towards that, just give a lobe, oval shaped or egg shaped lobe, that is nothing but a cerebellum. Just above the stalk, give a small halo section with a small opening down, and draw an oval shaped structure, that is thalamus, and then hypothalamus, and the posterior part is the epithalamus. Okay, so this ends the three major regions, and finally go over the whole semicircular part, that is cerebrum. Okay, so this is the diagrammatic part of the brain. And then what? Yeah, I have given, try to label properly the all regions. Okay, whatever regions you can cover in the diagram, you please label it properly. Try to represent what is a brainstem, what are the major three regions of the brainstem, that is, it consists of medulla oblongata, pons. Okay, and then what are the major regions, like you have to draw the cerebellum with the all the lobes. Okay, and then comes the diencephalon with that hollow structures, and then cerebrum with all the gyri. And if you can write about the hemispheres, all that is helpful. And next, just write the functions of cerebellum, right? What is the cerebellum does? Yeah, it is mainly involved in the motor functions. Okay, it is involved in the posture, it is involved in the balance of the body. All that functions, you need to list it out. Always try to list out the functions. It's very easy to read, and let your examiner knows that you have understood what it exactly has. Next, list the sequence of events that generate action potential. Yeah, this is very important, how an action potential is generated, what are the various changes, or which ionic channels have opened, or which ions changes and cause this action potential generation, and how a nerve impulse is transmitted from one neuron to the other neuron through this chemical transmission. explain extensively. So when you draw, that is a simple diagram of axon, where you can help in drawing the changes of the sodium and calcium channels opening and all that, then the action potential can be easily represented. The question, yeah, the weightage of the mark doesn't mean that you have to fill up the papers. Even a small diagram can fetch you a good mark. Okay, when you can represent everything in that small diagram, then it's better than going on writing everything, right? So try to learn whenever you are learning a topic, majorly in here HAP, try to draw a diagram, try to represent it in that. It's easy for you to understand, remember everything helps you. The diagrammatic representation is very important. Next is define reflex action, add a note on various components of reflex arc. Okay, this again we have gone through. What is a reflex arc? Okay, what is a reflex arc? It's an involuntary action taking place to combat the change or the sensory changes happening in the body. Okay, explain about how does reflex arc take place from the sensory to the yeah. I have been talking about in this whole nervous system only about the three things: sensory, inte, sensory, motor, and integrating center. Only these three things play the important role. Everything is over these three things. Okay, three these neurons. You don't get confused with all this, but try to learn about in a different part. That's why whenever you subheading based upon the heading, based upon the topic, you'll understand each process. Next is to describe the structure and function of brainstem. A very simple question asked, to put it in this way. A very small part of the brain, which is the connection between the other parts of the brain and the spinal cord, which is mainly including three major regions, which is involved in, again, it has a major part that is medulla oblongata, which is involved in the various vital centers, right? All respiratory center, all that centers are present in this medulla oblongata. Then comes the pons, then comes the midbrain. Okay, all these you have to go over, but don't forget to draw though they didn't ask in the question diagram, you please draw the diagram and try to, when you draw a diagram, you get an idea of what exactly it has. Then just go through that, just give that part, write that action, give that location, where is it present, anterior, posterior, superior, or inferior. Then give what are its subdivisions if it has, like nuclei, nuclear tracts. Okay, all that, it consists of myelinated sheaths or unmyelinated sheath, all that comes in the subdivisions, and then comes the function. You just simplify that functional part. Okay, the next question is, what are the various neurotransmitters? Yeah, this is just, you have to just try to define what is a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger which carries the information in a neuron. Okay, and like acetylcholine, adrenaline, you have many neurotransmitters. Okay, but as of now, you can just list out the neurotransmitters present here. Okay, the next question is, again, the similar repeated question, explain the various parts of brain with a label diagram. A very simple one, right? You can just draw the diagram, explain there itself. Whatever I have represented in one slide will fetch you 10 marks there. Okay, try to draw a neat label diagram with all the subdivisions and write its location and the functions there itself. There itself also, it works. Next, describe the structure of spinal cord. Yeah, structure of the spinal cord. What are the outer layers? How is its internal structure? What are the main nuclei tracts present in the spinal gray matter? What is white matter? What are the various neurons present in the white matter? How the spinal nerves connect through these spinal cord to the cranial nerves? All that you can describe in this spinal cord structure. Next comes the explain about nerve action. This is a similar question. See here, they asked you to describe the spinal cord with only 2 marks. Okay, maybe you cannot write extensively, so based upon the weightage also try to give the importance of how much time you need to maintain for that question, because as I have seen in my experience, HAP, most of the students, they get excited seeing that all question, like the long answer questions, if they know or if they can represent well, they start writing that, and end of the time, you'll be lacking the time to represent all these small questions. Okay, try to maintain the time, don't get overexcited, write everything you know in your mind, in your brain, everything you want to represent on the paper, it doesn't. But here it needs time, because it's time constraint, right? So you need to get over the time along with representing everything. So draw here, just draw a spinal cord. For this question, what I will do is describe the structure of spinal cord, right? I will just draw a spinal cord, represent all the three layers, draw that head-shaped structure. Okay, represent that this is gray matter, this is white matter. Okay, all that spinal, how the spinal nerves are connected. That's it. That's a 2 marks question, not just writing everything. Okay, next is again the 2-mark question, which is asking about briefly explain about the nerve action potential. Yeah, this is also the same thing, where you have the similar question for 10 marks and the same question is for 2 marks. What do you write here then? Here you just have to give what are the various stages of action potential. Okay, right? What is the first stage, second stage, how it goes. What is depolarization, what is repolarization, all that. If you can just add which calcium, which ions are opened here, which ions come inside, which action goes there, then that's it about this question. Next, define the term reflex and reflex arc. Write in a detail about diencephalon. Diencephalon has the major action. Okay, the anterior part of the pons, or otherwise the anterior part of the brain stem. Okay, and which connects to the major part of the cerebrum. All that you can write in this diencephalon. Enumerate the functions of thalamus, right? So this is also very important. You need to learn. That's what, if you can learn the whole topic of HAP in these 3 headings, where is it located, what are the various functions, what are the subdivisions, you can write any type of question. Let them ask any keyword. You know the only they can end up have asking the questions only in these 3 ways, right? So learn the subject in these 3 ways. Write a note on neurotransmission with a neat label diagram. Yeah, the same thing. Next is what is monosynaptic synaptic reflex. Explain it with a suitable example with the help of a diagram. Maybe it can be out of the syllabus, or otherwise it is more extensive about the nervous system, where you have to understand about what is a synapse. Okay, how what is monosynaptic reflex, all that can be written here. Yeah, so this is how I have just explained you everything about the nervous system, how you have to learn, how you have to represent in the question paper, in the answer. Hope I have given you the whole thing. Yeah, if any questions, please you can raise it in the chat and I can go through over it. The next, yeah, again, I would like all of you to please like and click on the bell icon for the Prakara materials. And here I'm going over the other program which Prakara has started for. This is for each semester, you have to just pay 149 rupees, which is valid for 21 days. You will get the whole material. You'll get the whole video lectures, all the notes, all the key terms, and it's even to self-assess yourself whether you have understood the whole topic or not. You will even have the self-assessments. So this is a very best option you have for learning the topic or mastering that individual topic or individual subject, right? So this is a great opportunity for you, all of you, which has been brought by this Prakara. So I want you all to please subscribe and enroll into this program and get benefit out of it. Yeah. you can download the app even by scanning this. This will be posted to you to your emails too. Try it, and if any questions, you can please go through our website, that is www.prakara.co.in, and you can also have a talk with the Prakara consultant over phone and get your questions answered and get a good output for your future on exam. Not only the examination point of view, we are also involved in knowledge sharing and mastering the subject, which is the basic thing. Like, as you are all in the first year, the basically this subject is in the first year, so you are starting your degree, so where you need have the basics, the basic stance. You, if you learn everything, the basics, then there's nothing like you can just understand the whole other subjects. If this is done, then all the roots, all the branches are just the other subjects are the branches of all these. Oops. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, if anything, please go over. Thank you for taking time and listening to this. Yes, if anything, please, I'd be available for the next questions and answer session. If anyone, please. If there are no questions, then we are good to go. We're going to end about the session. Thank you all for your patience, and please contact Prakara for any further details and for the information. I know all students have been exhausted, but still, if any questions, you can come over the chat of this YouTube video, and they can be answered by me or any other consultant from the Prakara, and you can come back whenever you need. You can just go through this, but try to get the benefit of all the programs offered by the Prakara.